Welcome to Real Estate IQ Wisdom for Smart Moves. We will explore the insider secrets tailored exclusively for Silicon Valley home buyers, sellers, and investors, arming you to conquer the unique real estate landscape. So, without further ado, let's dive into this exciting conversation. Today, we welcome Lori Fredericks and Annie Tyler of Fidelity National Title. They aim to facilitate secure and successful real estate transactions by leveraging their expertise in escrow management, title insurance, and sales. Across Silicon Valley, a staggering 61% of homeowners don't fully grasp the significance of title insurance. It's more than just a document. It's your shield against unforeseen title-related issues. Surprisingly, 63% of home buyers and sellers believe that escrow is complicated and difficult to understand. Patience is a virtue, but sometimes it leads to misconceptions. About 35% of home buyers and sellers assume that escrow will take longer than it actually does. Let's set the record straight and make the journey smoother. The following content is only for informational purposes. Please consult a licensed consultant for your specific situation or if you need any specific legal or tax advice.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, Annie, for taking time to speak with us.
It's nice to meet you.
Yes, thank you, Sharad. It is thrilled to be here with you today.
Absolutely. And Lori, starting with you, can you share a brief background about your personal experience?
Yeah, so my background on my career, I started in escrow in 1987 at Founders Title in Burlingame as an escrow assistant. And then I was fortunate enough in 1989 to become a part of Fidelity National Title family. And I was an escrow officer there. In 1990, I moved to Santa Clara County, and my career has been mostly in Santa Clara County. I'm currently the manager of Fidelity National Title Cupertino office. I have a great background in residential, commercial escrows, 1031 exchanges, reverse exchanges, refinances, construction loans. So a wide variety of escrows I've handled throughout my career.
How about you, Annie?
Well, thank you, Sharad. I'm Annie Tyler, sales executive at Fidelity National Title, a job I truly love because I work with realtors such as yourself, folks related to the industry. I love that. I was with Fidelity Title for 4.5 years, did a little detour to a law firm for a while, and I loved it so much I came back recently. So I'm a fairly seasoned title rep. I'm out there in the field all the time, and I do represent the Cupertino branch.
So what is a title company? What do you guys do?
Well, we can both speak to that, actually. So as you may know, when you purchase a property, you probably don't want to just meet the buyer and seller meet on the lawn and exchange a few $1 million of cash. You've got to have an intermediary there to handle, a neutral third party escrow. And then, of course, title insurance to make sure that you are, in fact, meeting, if you're the buyer, you're meeting with the seller and they are all who they say they are. And, you know a bit of the background of the property itself and make sure that you have clear title.
So, Lori, explain us the escrow process step by step.
Okay, the escrow process starts with when a listing agent has a listing agreement signed or there is a purchase contract. That's when we can begin the escrow process. At that time, a preliminary title report will be generated from our title department, and that will show the owner of record, any liens on the property taxes. At that point, once we get the buyer's deposit, and there's that purchase contract, we will ask the buyer to submit their initial deposit. And we will do that through a secure email to them and work with them to get that initial deposit in. And at that time, the buyer will work with their lender, if there's a lender, and then we will wait till the lender receives all of the buyer's information. Once we get loan documents, we will sign the buyer, we will sign the seller, and then we wait for funds from the lender, funds from the buyer, and then we can close the escrow. That's really basically how the process of the escrow will work.
And what issues you generally run during that escrow process?
What issues do we run into during the escrow process? Well, there could be some title issues, of course. Let's say the owner is not what the realtor thinks. The owner's name is not what the actual seller is. That could be an issue. Some other issues could be the misspelling of a person's name on the title, which was previously recorded. That's something we'll have to fix. Deeds of trust or liens that are not supposed to be there. The seller is not aware of a certain deed of trust that's on the property. That's basically kind of it, what we look for. Every single escrow is different. So when we look at that title report, we're going to review it and then assess what needs to be taken care of.
Well, one common thing I've seen happen, and Lori, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but folks tend to take out something like a HELOC and then kind of forget they have it. Home equity loan line of credit. So that was something that I've seen sometimes come up, that they did it back in the day. Maybe they used it, maybe they didn't, but they forgot that maybe they have to clean that up before they can sell, for example.
Right. That is one thing that we would do for them, is make sure that we get a zero balance demand and a reconveyance to get that deed of trust off their property.
And what is a cloud on a title?
That could be maybe a trustee's deed. It could be, like I said, an old deed of trust, a quiet title. Maybe there's some lawsuits going on. An affidavit of death that maybe was not recorded, that was supposed to be recorded. So that could be a cloud. Those are just some of the things. IRS liens, franchise tax board liens. Maybe the seller doesn't know they even have an IRS lien against them. So that could pose a problem right away. Maybe they don't have the money or the proceeds that come out of the sale of the property to pay for that. So those are a few things that we see that could cloud the title.
So why should buyers really care about the cloud on the title?
Oh, well, may not be able to close escrow. You've got a quiet title on there. There's lawsuits going on. It may not close for a year or two. Same, with the trustee sale. You don't know what's happening. So it's very important that the realtors review that prelim and, let their sellers know, or the buyer know, what's happening.
And oftentimes our escrow officers do review that with the agent and kind of give them a heads up on these concerns or red flags to help the agent, navigate that and help their client resolve those if possible.
Yeah, when the preliminary title report comes out right in the beginning, we review it at that time. And if there are any red flags, we will alert the listing agent. That way we can resolve all those issues before, if we can.
So how do title searches work and why they are so crucial?
Title insurance, well, a buyer needs title insurance. They definitely, if there's a claim or anything, a deed of trust, in the chain of title that could be forged, a power of attorney that the termination date is out of date. Excuse me. Title insurance can pay for, if there's a claim, attorney fees, costs. It can be reimbursed for their covered losses. And And if there's a divorce, a marital dispute of some sort, the claim will do any validity of divorces, protects against the divorced wife or husband.
So really, Sherrod, we could think of it similar to any other type of insurance that you purchase for your home or your car. If the darn thing doesn't work or there's a problem with it, with an insurance policy, you have recourse. There can be exceptions, and we would note those. But generally, it's similar to insurance that any buyer or seller would be familiar with the general concept. It helps make sure that hopefully most times things go smoothly, but if it doesn't and there's a problem down the road, then you have a reliable insurance company with, many, many billions of dollars in reserves to help cover your damages.
Worried about the dilemma of selling first or buying first? TradeMyHome.com, powered by Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, has the solution. With our guaranteed 24-hour cash offers, you won't risk owning 2 homes or being homeless. You can buy first and sell later. Are you upgrading or downgrading in the next 3 to 6 months? Text PAIR to 408-740-7400 for a free and no-obligation professional equity appraisal report. For more information, visit TradeMyHome.com or call 408-740-7400. Remember, at TradeMyHome.com, your home is sold guaranteed or we'll buy it. For the next episode of Real Estate IQ, featuring Matthew Angel, the CEO of Angel Law Firm.
When I went to law school, I immediately gravitated towards the real property classes. I really enjoyed.
He practices real estate law, business litigation, civil litigation, and probate litigation.
Extremely nerdy, but I really enjoyed every aspect of learning about law and how it touches real estate.
Check out our full episode on Tuesdays, 5 o'clock a.m. Pacific and 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern on YouTube and Apple Podcast.
So what are the different type of title insurances buyers can purchase?
Well, that depends. It totally depends on if it's an investment property, if it's, vacant land, agricultural, residential. And for the most part, a buyer's going to want and they're going to live in the property. They want the Alta homeowners title insurance. Investment property, most of it will be a CLTA owner's policy. Vacant land is a CLTA. Of course, we do have, a certain title insurance for construction, property that's our commercial. So it just depends, completely depends on the property.
So share a story where a buyer or a seller recently claimed title insurance.
Well, I'm not sure if they've claimed title insurance, but I can tell you some problems that have come up, title issues that either myself or other escrow officers have encountered. Big one is old deeds of trust. We don't see that too much anymore, as much as we did when the refinance was back in the early 2000s. Everybody was refinancing quickly. But for a seller, a lot of times we will see this old deed of trust and they have no clue. They don't remember, they don't have any information on it. And we are required to get a reconveyance. So either we track down this lender and try to get the reconveyance out of them, or that seller is going to have to bond it. They're going to have to go to a surety company, and then the surety company will issue a reconveyance. But there is a cost for that. So that's one of those things where we look at the prelim and tell the seller, again, you have a deed of trust here. We're going to have to take care of this. And we can't close escrow without a reconveyance.
If there's a deed of trust, it may likely mean they borrowed some money or leveraged that property for some financial gain. And that a reconveyance is when that, and Lori, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is when that is released. In other words, you loan me $100,000, for example, we recorded a deed of trust that says, Sherrod, if you don't pay me back, I get to take your property. You paid me back the $100,000. We're clear. A reconveyance is a document that, releases that. So that then the seller, for example, if you could move forward and sell that property. Otherwise, if you hadn't paid me the $100,000, I'd say, wait, I have a deed of trust. I would, be able to lay claim. Is that right, Lori? Did I get that right?
That is. And I'm just thinking about a similar situation that happened where a deed of trust did not get paid off through the escrow, and it was in a partnership. And one of the partners, they signed a reconveyance when the loan was not actually paid off, and the other partner came to sue. So that was a claim that Fidelity had that actually now, from what I understand, it's she, the one who committed basically the fraud, has dropped the case. So that's kind of stuff that we have to deal with when it comes to the claims department. I also had an interesting where an attorney recorded a grant deed from the trustees of a trust to the heirs directly. What they forgot to do was record the affidavit of death of the person, of the trustee. So right there's a cloud on your title. So now you have to go back and record that affidavit. I mean, the heirs probably already got paid. So yeah, that would be a cloud on the title.
So in other words, one of the steps in the process got dropped. And that creates confusion. And So there you go. That's another type of issue that against which you want to be insured.
Right.
So that has to be cleaned up or go back after the fact. You have some backup.
Right.
So do you remember a time when a buyer found a problem after the purchase and he came back to claim the insurance?
Our preliminary title report shows easements, driveway easements, boundaries, stuff like that. They could have come back and say, oh, my neighbor is encroaching on my property. And that would be a claim, because they'll have to come back to us. We're going to have to prove that piece of land is theirs or who it belongs to. So that's potentially a claim. And that's another reason to get title insurance, when these sorts of things come up.
Do you remember any recent story where that happened?
No, personally, maybe I have not had that issue. I have heard of that happening before. And the process, I don't know how long it takes for the process of that. Annie, I don't know about you.
I'm not aware of one.
Yeah.
But to clarify maybe for your audience, Sherrod, an easement is a permission to access your neighbor's property. For example, you might have an easement to drive on a certain designated portion to reach your property, such as a flag lot, for example. That's what an easement is. And I know maybe some of your listeners may be wondering about some of this lingo. Right. But essentially, it's legal permission in some cases where, hey, you can access the north side of my property, to drive in or whatever it may be, or for utilities or things like that.
And what is a wire fraud and how can buyers avoid it? Or sellers?
Oh, yeah. Wire fraud is crazy these days. Completely crazy. So the best advice for a buyer is do not accept any wire instructions from anybody other than your title company or your escrow officer. Do not accept from your agent or anybody else. We as the escrow company will send a secure email to them in the beginning of our transaction for them to set up their initial wire. And those instructions will not change at all. And the best thing for them to do also is to call and verify those instructions. They will get them in a PDF form. A lot of times I'll have them call me right from the bank and verify the instructions. Sellers, you can email me your wire instructions, but again, I'm going to call you from that phone number that you gave me in the beginning of our transaction and verify those instructions again before we close escrow. So I think now the way we have things in place, buyers, especially buyers, should feel very secure that they're transferring their funds is safe. And we will never send wire instructions to any of the other parties in the transaction, only to the principals.
Share a story recently which you remember around wire fraud.
I personally have not had that happen to me. I have heard other escrow officers where the funds did end up in the fraudsters' hands and they have not recovered it. But I'll tell you, Fidelity has recovered quite millions of dollars as diverted wire fraud. So that's why I feel that our platform that we have now is very, very secure. But you just have to be the buyers. Like I said, you have to pick up the phone and call.
And how is technology changing or alleviating some of these concerns for buyers?
Well, that's our new in-here platform where, like I said, I'm going to be sending that secure email to them in the beginning of our transaction. They will answer the questions that I ask of them, and at the end, they're going to DocuSign my wire fraud form. So I feel that is technology. What we've done with that is awesome. So, and not so much for the seller on that side, but we do through our transaction, through all of the escrow process, your buyer or seller will be notified when certain things happen, just like when the initial deposit gets in. They'll be alerted when a closing statement goes out. At the end of our transaction, a final closing statement will go to buyer and to the seller. Grant deed will go to the buyer. So these are all automatic things that are happening, which I think is great.
Why should a buyer or a seller choose Fidelity National over other title insurance companies?
Well, I think there's a few good reasons, Sharad. One of them is expert escrow officers such as Lori, and of course others who on her team and in our company who help make things happen. You may know that Fidelity is ranked as a Fortune 500 company consistently with billions of dollars in reserves to pay claims. But, I think even more than those are important things to buyers and sellers, certainly. I think, but I think another thing that might be as important is that, quite honestly, I've been at Fidelity for some time now, and so has Lori. I think one of the reasons we work there is that Fidelity really empowers us to work a little bit entrepreneurially and handle our clients and Lori's clients on her desk, personally. So she gets to know them. She knows kind of how they work, and that has enables us to stay in touch and really provide great service. And that's what service is, personalized.
Right. Exactly.
So I honestly feel that way about Fidelity. Everyone is different, and just like when you go to a restaurant, you have your preferences.
Right.
And we try to accommodate those.
It was a pleasure talking to you, both Annie and Lori, today. Thank you so much for your time. Keep up the great work, and let us stay in touch.
Thank you, Sharad.
Had a great time.
Thank you for listening to the podcast and acknowledging the wisdom of smart moves in real estate in Silicon Valley. Please share this episode with a friend, subscribe, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts at Real Estate IQ. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their client commitment and for making this podcast possible. If you're considering buying or selling a home, visit TradeMyHome.com. Until next time, remember to stay ahead in the real estate game.